Okay. Hopefully this will help explain the seventh chords. So what we were talking about in the lesson was basically arranging the different shapes and the different seventh chords into categories, like families of shapes. Here's what I mean by that. So we were talking about all the shapes that were based off of the E shape, right? So that would be like E major. And these are, going back to some of the first chords that you learned. The A shapes and the D shapes. The first thing that I think might help is that I think in your message you said something about the E and the C and the D, but they're E shapes, A shapes, and D shapes. So that might help. And then basically just looking at okay, so within the E shapes, if you want to make an E7, right, you lose that one finger. Because remember and that's an E dominant 7. That's what another thing we were talking about. Up till now we've just called it E7, but now that we're learning more seventh chords, there's a specific name for it, which is E dominant 7. And that's kind of the bluesy, funky one. And then there was E minor 7. Right, and that just took an E minor and it dropped that same. And then there was E major 7. And remember, with the major 7, you take that same note, that's an E, right, so kind of the root note, but you drop it a half step instead of a whole step like you do with the dominant 7. So dropping that a half step, do, do, and then everything else stays the same, so you get. And then it was the same kind of thing for the A shapes. There was major, minor, minor 7, dominant 7. So we take our root note. There's A, and we drop that A a whole step for dominant 7. Or we drop it a half step for major 7. Sorry, just trying to get the best angle on that. Right, there's that nice floating major 7. And with the D, we don't really do all of them because it's a little harder to turn that into a bar, but we can at least do, we can do the dominant 7, right? So there's that D dominant 7, kind of a triangle thingy bobber. And we can do and just to remind you of how we got there, there's your root note, right? So there's the D, the octave of the low D, 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 and then for the dominant 7 we lower it a whole step. So there's our D dominant 7. And for the major 7, we lower that D a half step. So then we get, or maybe it's easier to see as just a straight across bar. Okay, so those were kind of the categories of the shapes. And all you need to do then to turn those into bar chords is just remember that if your root note is on the E string, you're using the E family of shapes. Major, minor, dominant 7, minor 7, major 7. More on that one in a minute. If the root note's on the A string, you're using your A family of shapes. Major, minor, dominant 7, major 7, minor 7. Alright. If your root note is on the D string, then we're using our D family of shapes. Major, minor. We didn't really do too much with that one. Come back to that. But dominant 7, major 7. So then what those look like as bars, real quick, is, let's say we were on the 5th fret. So root note, 5th fret, E string. We know that's an A. So we have A major, or for our 7s, we have A dominant 7, A minor 7, and then the A major 7 was a little bit weird, but it was this scrunchy one where we kept the root note, and then you've got those 3, so we mute the A string, and then you've got, alright, and we can talk more about that one in the lesson, but you just learn the shape for now. A string root, right, so 5th fret on the A string, these are all going to be types of D chords, because that root note is a D. So we had, D major, straight across, D minor, and again, these are the A family shapes, right? Major, minor. And then for the 7s, we have our dominant 7, where we just, from our 3 across, that note goes down a whole step, and we just have 2 fingers now. Minor 7, well, let's see, major 7, this note, now it just goes down a half step. So we get our triangle thingy bobber, and we get our nice D major 7. Minor 7, take the minor, and we lose that note, D minor 7. And then with our D string root, that note, whenever I want to find the note name on the D string, I check the octave. Right? There's your octave distance. So we know that's a G. Okay, so here's our G dominant 7, because I'm making that shape of a D dominant 7 with the root note on the D string. Or major 7, 3 across, with the root note. Okay, hopefully that helped clear it up a little bit, and we can definitely talk about that more in the lesson. Good luck. Keep up the good work.